Hey. Alright. So yeah, a bit different thing I'm doing here. Going to be reacting to this manga that I've done on the channel for a while called Sachi-iro to One Room, or One Room of Happiness. This is going to be chapter 48. So yeah, I got the other chapters up to like 46, and we'll upload 47 soon. But yeah, I decided I want to try something different. Mainly because there's new chapters coming out now. It was on break for a long time, and yeah. But yeah, let me know what y'all think of this live streaming thing, if you like it or not. So yeah, guess we'll just start. So, alright, chapter 48. Yeah, okay. So we start chapter off. Hey there, you guys okay? It's the detectives. Says, here's your glasses and hat. You should be careful since you were on the news. And he's, so it says, oh, and then, yeah, Nabe, I think his name is, says, you should have more to say than just, oh, words that even a little kid can say. And then she says, reluctantly, thank you. She, like, takes the hat, and he says, you really aren't cute. And the detective says, who was it who was freaking out over some fingerprints? I've heard from Yoshiro. And yeah, Sachi says, shut up. And then says, just so we're clear, you should assume that the investigation's gone further than the news is saying. They've already found out what you look like with your mask, and they're searching for you as their prime suspect. You don't have much time. And then Sachi says, what you said about adopting me, you're right. I think our interests are matched, but I'm choosing to go with Mr. As long as he's with me, I'll choose him. I'm done caring about interests. And then, yeah, he's like, sure, whatever. I see. And then Sachi says, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that your plan. And then he says, no, I get it. It's fine. You don't need to decide right away. You're better off having more people you can rely on. And yeah, it says, actually, what you're saying is totally different than what you were saying before. Did something happen? And then Sachi says, I won't tell you. And he says, I see. I won't choose some random old guy who's showed up out of nowhere. And then, yeah, that's what Sachi says. And he says, stop calling me old. And the Mister is thinking, or Haru is thinking, when did they get so friendly? And then, yes, Yoshiro says, Matsubase-san is like that, but he's really worried about you. And then Haru says, why do you care so much about a total stranger? And Yoshiro says, same for you. Both myself and Matsubase-san were strangers, but you and Sachi were strangers too at first. Everybody starts off as strangers, which is why it's not a reason to abandon someone. Let me see, yeah. The surveillance camera, 11:58, someone knocks on the door, I guess, and says, Haru says, what do you want? What do you want at this hour? And then he, like, gives him a beer or something. Or hands him a can through the door and says, "We're going to get drunk. Join us." Yeah, says Matsubase says, "So it's time for our first boys' party." And then Haru's like, "Hang on, what's all this? What is all this?" And then he says, "It's a boys' party. No, I mean, you got me in a headlock and dragged me here. Well, you tried to close the door on me." And says, "Sachi's asleep. It's perfect timing." And then Haru says, "But why do I have to drink with you, though?" Matsubase then says, "Drinking to get to know somebody better is pretty typical, right?" And then Haru then says, I don't want to get to know you better, though." And then Matsubase says, "Well, I want to know you better." So then just starts drinking. Then he says, "At first I came here to save Sachi, but turns out you've got problems of your own. I figure you needed saving too." And then Haru says, "I didn't ask you to save me." And then Matsubase says, "You did, no, but I want to." And then he says, "Take whichever one you want, my treat." And then Yoshiro says, "Huh, you're paying? Wow, that never happens." And then he says, "What's that supposed to mean, Yoshiro?" And then Haru's thinking, all my memories of beer are... Yeah. And he says, "I've never drank beer before." And then, Tsubasa says, "You can't? Didn't see that coming." And he says, "No, I'm not." Haru then says, "No, I'm not interested in it is all. That's all." "Really, how old are you? I figured you were about the same age as me." And he says, "My age, probably somewhere between 22 and 26. And then, he says, "Why are you so vague?" "It's not a big deal if you find out your age, yeah." And then he says, "I mean, I didn't really count." And then Yashiro's like, "Huh? I don't even know my birthday. I only realized that stuff was important after I grew up." Then Matsubase puts his can down and says, "Well, I never really had birthdays either. They don't matter that much. What's important is that you exist right in front of us. Here, this has the least alcohol." He says, "This has the least alcohol." That's what he's thinking. This is apple soup or something. And he thinks back to his father, and he's thinking, he used to drink it a lot when he was with the others. Wonder if he had trouble holding his liquor. And then Yashiro says, "How did you two meet? Sachi seems more like she ran away than she got kidnapped. How did this all happen?" And then Haru says, "I was her stalker." And they go like, "What?" Like, "Huh?" And he says, "I was there when she was about to commit suicide and I stopped her." And then he says, "Suicide? I see, matching interests, huh? I wondered where all that complicated stuff she was saying was coming from. So if you were her stalker, were you in love with her?" And he says, "I don't know. I hated her at first, but she was the only person who could be sure that I trusted. Trusting somebody new now would be..." He says, "Yeah, trust again. You guys love that word, huh? You're kind of a child, too." And then Haru's like, "Huh?" Matsubase then says, "When you're dealing with other people, you overthink it. Trust, interest, all that crap. Most people, adults included, don't think about that stuff. You can't see what anybody else is thinking inside their head. Wondering about it will get you nowhere." He says, "When I grew up, I realized that all grown-ups are idiots, including me. The ideal grown-up is just an ideal. Even when you're growing up, when you're grown up yourself, something in my life made me realize that. I was a cop, you see." And they're like, "Huh?" Yashiro was like freaked out too, and he's like, "Why are you freaking out too?" And then Yashiro says, "It's the first I've heard of it." And then he says, "Is that why you know what the cops are doing?" And Matsubase says, "Don't tell anybody. If Internal Affairs finds out about leaks, there will be big trouble. Your life will be over." And he says, "I won't." And Matsubase says, "I became a cop because one saved my life once. I wanted to be like them. That was the simple reason. Even I had a time like that. But a cop's job is to make people obey the laws of the country they live in, not really save them. My ideals were just ideals, and after that, well, some stuff happened and I quit." You can have money, you can have a lot of things, but that doesn't make you happy. I saw a lot of people like that when I was a cop. And then his father's words come back to him. Even if you have a home, you're still worried about what the people around you think. And it says, "That's why life is better lived if you don't spend too much time thinking about it. At least that's my philosophy. You meet a lot of people, sometimes you fight, sometimes you fail, you get that experience, and that's how you meet people you can trust. You and Sachi just don't have experience. The world's a bigger place than you realize, okay?" And then he says, "Now let's drink." And then he says, "Oh, and take off that mask." And then Haru says, "No." And Sachi, wakes up, it looks like. And she's like, "What is a boys' party?" He has terrible handwriting, too. It says, "We're at a boys' party, no girls allowed, Mister is with us." And then Sachi's thinking, "I woke up and was kind of surprised when Mister wasn't here. What are they talking about?" So she, cracks the door and peeks in, and it says, "What, you don't know about Dragon Quest? What about FF? What's that? Famous games, even my orphanage had them. You should play them, they'll change your life. No thank you, it sounds like too much work." And then Sachi's thinking, Mister is talking to other people? He sounds like he's having fun and I'm left out. That's, It's not how it looks, Sachi. Because it says he sounds, and it's pointing, saying, "That's not how it looks." Yeah. Or being left out, I think is what it means. Then she thinks back, and she says, "I'm used to being left out, but for some reason, I don't feel as upset about it as I used to. I've never seen him talk so much like that." And so, it's morning now. She goes over, rings the doorbell, says even when morning comes, he didn't come home. And someone says yes. And then, opens the door, and Yashiro is like, "Oh, sorry, Sachi, you came to get Mister, right?" And then she, covers her mouth, and it's he smells like beer. He says, "Something wrong," and then she's freaking out, or looks like she's freaked out. He says, "Sachi, my dad used to drink a lot. He'd get violent when he did, so the smell of alcohol makes me..." And then Yashiro says, "I'm not your dad, and everybody drinks. Nobody's going to get violent. You can relax." And then she says, I see. And then, says, I want your help, actually. If you talk to him, you might wake up." And so, you see Mister and Haru and Matsubase just laid out on the ground. It says, "Both of them totally passed out. I tried my best to get them up, but they're both out cold." And then, Sachi's face is really freaked out, and she says, "You don't always get violent when you drink." And then Yashiro says, "That's right. If it was that dangerous, nobody would sell it. Still bad if you drink too much, though, but yeah." And he says, "I'm not really affected by it, so I always was in charge of cleaning up when we had parties." And Sashi's like, Yashiro's not weak at something? And he's like, don't look at me like that. And she says, why was I left out anyway? And then Yashiro says, there was a wall between us and Mystery just like there was with you. If the two of you are living together like this, you're probably not the only one with a problem, right? We want to save you, both of you. That's the only reason why we're here. And he says, Matsubase-san is worried about Mister too. And Matsubase's like, oh, it's Sachi. So bright outside. Oh, you're awake. And he's like, oh shit, my head hurts. Yeah. Yashiro then turns around and says, here you go, have some water. And then Matsubase's like, hey master boy, get up. Did you end up drinking after that? And he's like, does your head hurt too? Of course it's a hangover. And then he says, oh, I thought I'd get some weird illness from drinking. So this is a hangover. Don't feel so good. Then Matsubase says, don't go back to sleep because you solved the mystery. Wait, you did drink, so I could have gotten a look at your face. And then Sasha's like, a hangover? Are you okay? The volume. And he's like, sorry, Sachi, please keep it down. And she's like, sorry. And then she's like, what do I do? And Yashiro says, don't worry, just leave them be and they'll be fine. They just had a little too much fun last night. Here's your water. He's like, wow, I love you, Yashiro. And then he like pulls it away. And then Yashiro's like, never get drunk like that again, please. You're lucky I was here. I had to clean up your vomit in the bathroom. And then, he's like, Matsubase says, fine, I won't, so give me the water. And he's like, really? And then Yashiro says, okay, you have some too, Mr. Mask. And then Haru says, thanks. And it's like, wait, why aren't you getting mad at them? He is innocent since it was... or that's what Matsubase asks why Yashiro's not getting mad at Haru too. He says he's innocent since it was his first time getting drunk and he didn't drink so much that he puked. He says, well, he wasn't opening any of them, so I had no choice but to. And then he says, you're too loud, be quiet. And Sachi smiles, says, both of you are little kids. And she starts laughing, and then they just look at each other. And then Sachi thinking, when I saw the two of them were a little closer now, I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't because I'd given up and just didn't care. I wasn't faking it. Normally a smile isn't something you do deliberately. I knew that kind of. So today's a special day. The first day I was able to smile naturally. Then we go over to the cops, or it says Sergeant Kiriyama. And he says, what is it, Kishino? And Kishino says, we finished analyzing the security camera footage. We found the sedan the landlord was talking about. We asked the used car place where it was bought, and they said it was definitely the man with the mask. But the car was already abandoned. We found where it was ditched, but we haven't found where the masked man is. And then, he says, this license plate. And then he remembers Matsubase saying, there's a license plate I want you to look into for me. I'm investigating an affair, and I need it for that. And then, Kishino says, do you know something about this plate? And he says, hey, Kishino. And then Kishino says, yes. He says, there's something I want you to look into for me. And then, that's the end of the chapter. So, hope y'all are enjoying this. All right. On to the next one. So, I think we're going to do 2 this time. So, this chapter 49. Pages Matsubase and Yashiro. color page. So I guess this is the volume. Alright, so picking up from where the last one ended, he says, Hidri Matsubase, age 29, currently managing a detective agency. His office doesn't have any employees beyond Ryoto Yashiro, age 23. Your office is currently closed. I wasn't able to find out why. He says, what am I even investigating here, Sergeant Kiriyama? Closed, I thought so. You thought so? What do you mean? I mean, I'm incompetent. And then he says, huh? Incompetent? Shit. Why didn't I realize when Matsubase came to the police in the first place? And then, yeah, he's like, Sergeant. And he says, we're leaving now, Kishino. Now. It's the middle of the night. Of course it's for work. He won't be coming back for a while. Or yeah, we won't be coming back for a while. If it's that long an investigation, we should tell our superiors. Absolutely not. I owe him a favor. If they find out what I traded for this list, I'm fired. We'll investigate this, just the two of us. And then Kishino's like, don't say a word to the bosses. I guess this was part of his plan too. He's a damn fox, that Matsubase is. Then we see a chessboard. And Sachi apparently checkmates. Huh? Sachi, are you actually really good at this? I was messing around. I'll play for real. One more game. Sure. Checkmate. 4 wins in a row. You're kidding me. How can I lose? I'm a genius. Hey, I think this chess set is broken. It was cheap. It's a board game. Fun game of chess. Price doesn't make it easy to play. Matsubase says, I was just going to have some fun with you, and look what happened. And Sachi says, pretty easy once you know the rules. This is fun. And yeah, he says, I lost so much, I'm not having any fun at all. And then Yashiro's like, you're mad because you lost a game to a kid? Grow up. He says, if it wasn't a game, I would have taken the enemy's king's head. No, this is a game. And Matsubase says, anyway, you think really fast on your feet, huh? You didn't used to give me that impression at all. You felt like somebody who just acted on a whim, not good at games at all. And then Sachi says, well, the rules are simple. You just take the king to win. The pieces were really alive, and you had to figure out... and you had to figure out how long they should sleep, how much food to give them. You'd be better than me. But I guess I'm better in a game. And it's like sense of defeat. This little girl. And then she hides behind Haru. It's this scary. It's called a... He called me a little girl. And Matsubase says, enough chess. I'll just have to admit that you're better than me. And anyway, Sachi, you feel like you got a more cheerful personality. And then she says, huh? You used to be this crazy chick who would wave a knife around. Why are you so much calmer now? Huh? Do you want to know? Self-confidence. Self-confidence that I'm better at the game than anyone else. Better at this game than anyone here. I could play another 100 rounds and not lose. Oh, you think so, huh? Now I really have to beat you. One more game. I don't think you can. Self-confidence, huh? That's what Matsubase thinks. If I told her what's really making her confident is knowing she'll have somebody to play another 100 games, she'd probably get mad. I don't know what happened out there, but she got... But she's got confidence. She's cheerful enough to make fun of other people. Is probably what Sachi used to be like. The fear tying her down is gone, and now creativity is given free. Her creativity is given free rein. She can think for think for herself and follow the path she wants to travel. The rules of this world are way more complicated than chess. There's these weird things called feelings. Sometimes things get in the way and you can't go the direction you want. But if something gets in your way, you can just avoid it. Normally that's how it goes, but what if you couldn't avoid something? That something might be your family environment, it might be the land you were born in, it might be some kind of despair my brain can't even imagine. But everyone's born equally under the same rule: you have to live. Up until now, Sachi's tried her best to follow that rule. There's no world outside the game board. If you want out, you have to die. I suppose that's what she thought. She's still a little kid, I guess. The outside world is wider than you realize. And no matter how lonely you feel, there is at least 3 people who can play the game with you. Yeah. Don't space out on me. Are you taking this seriously? I am. Sheesh. The Sachi who used to say all that creepy stuff about trust now doesn't even feel anything's weird and just enjoying a game with other people. That's what it means to have a place to belong. Sachi realized that, and then she says, Matsubase says to him, "You've been really out of it. What's wrong?" And then, he says, you're really good. I lose. I surrender. And Sachi's like, huh? The game's not over. And he says, I'm going for a smoke break. If I don't smoke, I'll die. And they're like, huh? And then, we see Sachi and Haru. And then Matsubase is out on, outside pretty much smoking. He says, it's not like me to get emotional. I'd like to think that everything will just peacefully solve itself now, but I think Kiriyama's about to figure me out. If feelings could solve everything, the world would be a much easier place. And that's that chapter. So thinking that'll be the end of the stream most likely. Hoping y'all enjoyed it. If you want me to do streams more often, then be sure to comment down below and let me know what you thought. And I'll see you.